Patrick Schumacker, executive producer of Abbott Elementary on ABC. I read a feature, Patrick, about the show, and Carrie Burke, president of 20th Television, said of the thousands of pitches that she's ever heard in her career, Quinta's pitch for Abbott Elementary was the only one that made her cry. I thought it's such a great little anecdote. And I think it really speaks to the show because it's so funny, but also so emotional. And I guess, can you talk about that heartfelt nature and making sure that's so present with the comedy, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all kind of starts with Quinta Brunson, who created the show, stars in the show, saying obvious things. But her mother was a school teacher, elementary school teacher in the Philadelphia school district for 40 years. And so, it all comes from a real place and a desire to show things kind of as they are. And we've definitely had, we've had an overwhelmingly positive response from the educational community. And a lot of teachers have said, aside from it being very funny, that sometimes it's very hard to watch because it's very real. And some teachers have, been tortured by it because it does hit a little close to home. But that was always a really important kind of, mandate for us going into this, that we didn't want it to become a cartoon. We didn't want it to be broad, which is ironic, the cartoon statement, because initially Quinta's idea for it, she came to us with it as an animated show. This was like several years ago, still like done in sort of a mockumentary style, but it was more of a function of scheduling purposes. But then, serendipity happened and our schedules all freed up, and both us, meaning Justin Halper and my partner and myself and Quinta, kind of almost at the same time, like 1, 2, 3, like broadcast live action mockumentary format. We all kind of like had the exact same idea moving forward when we got like a second chance to develop the show. So yeah, I mean, we didn't want to, we went into it not wanting the show to be preachy. We didn't want the show to be about issues. Of course, like they will arise given the the setting, but we didn't want to kind of hit it over the head, and so we weren't going to shy away from the real struggles that can afflict our school systems. So yeah.
So you mentioned there like how it's obviously a broadcast show. I think one of the things that is striking about Abbott Elementary is that it's really like in the zeitgeist. I feel like it has a cool factor that you would maybe associate now with like a cable show or a streaming show, but it is very cool to have it on network. And I guess, can you talk about why that was the right spot for it, and like that, like a network show at this point? Because I guess maybe just, I can't imagine it's just that they said yes. I guess like what was like, why is it better as like a network show than a streaming show or a cable show or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we always kind of went after it as a network show. We were thinking about pitching it to streamers kind of in addition to, but like the response was pretty strong right out of the gates, with ABC making a very generous offer. I think part of it is just there are like so many stories to tell with an ensemble this big, and it didn't feel like it was something that needed to be limited to 10 episodes a season. We felt like it could be more episodic in nature. We felt like, given sort of the subject matter and the setting, that it was something that would be appealing for sort of 4 quadrants and like the largest audience possible. And also, I think it came down to, Quinta is such a huge fan. I mean, we all are, but Quinta is like a super fan of shows like particularly The Office, Parks and Rec as well, and just was dying to do something that was kind of in that spirit. And so it felt like a no-brainer to first kind of go down the path of the network, the broadcast network show. And it seemed like a natural fit the second that we got into these rooms to pitch. So, and especially like with ABC, it's like with Erin Werenberg and her team over there, Wendy Steinhoff, we've known them for over a decade. When they were at Warner Brothers, they gave us Justin and myself, our first gig. And so it just felt like, oh, this was like kismet to like come together with them again, now on sort of the side of, the buyer. And they were familiar with Quinta as well. And it was kind of serendipity how the whole thing came together.
So you mentioned like The Office and Parks and Rec, obviously the mockumentary format. Like those shows, I feel like the cast is so, it's like the format helps the cast even like explode further, right? Like it's like creating stars almost. Obviously, like a Cheryl Lee Ralph is an incredible famous actress and like very well known, but a lot of the other people, maybe this is the first time audiences are experiencing them or have seen them before. How much does the casting inform the characters in that case, or vice versa, I guess?
It's funny, like we really didn't like the casting process on broadcast shows, especially, I think can be really sort of painstaking. And we were really lucky that like to a person, like we I think I want to say with every role, either we just were able to make an offer right out of the gates, or the person who read for the studio and network was like the only person that read for it that we brought to the network. It's definitely at the network stage. So it just felt kind of natural. Like Janelle, in particular, was someone I was completely unfamiliar with her. She was a writer on Black Monday. She'd written on Central Park for Apple, and like she just walked in and just immediately kind of exuded every quality of Ava that we wanted. And then, in the middle of shooting the season, she was like, this character is just like me. So I think a lot of it was, as with most of these things, was just kind of dumb luck. But yeah, I think we're pretty open and pretty I like one of our mantras going in is that once you have cast that actor, right to their strengths or right to the things that you want to see that particular actor do, and it might mean pivoting a little bit away from what you originally envisioned from the character. But I mean, we didn't have to pivot very hard. I mean, Tyler was someone that Quinta was familiar with, who plays Gregory on the show. She had worked with him on Black Lady Sketch Show and had just known him socially, and was like, talking to him on the phone like prior to the casting process about it. So it was it was a very easy process. And yeah, we just we've been able to, we've had the fortune of socializing with the actors outside of work as well, and have gotten to know them, and have I hopefully been respectful and constantly kind of in dialogue with them about what we want to do with their characters, and everybody's been really on board so far.
It is a great cast. I'm glad you mentioned Janelle James as Principal Ava. She is like legit LOL sitting and watching the show. And I guess I was reading, I think it's another article. It was like, oh, like the premise was like, let Principal Ava remain terrible, I think was the headline or something, like, because she's obviously such a great foil, I guess, going into like, not to spoil like a season 2, but like, how do you balance like humanizing her, which I think the show did really well, especially in like the latter stage of the season, with keeping her, making sure she retains that edge, I guess, going forward, because she is so funny and such a great mix, because the show is so sweet, obviously, as well. And I think that's I wouldn't wonder, how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, well, we're only a few weeks into the season 2 writers' room, so anything that we've done is obviously subject to change. But
sure,
I think one of the things right off the bat is Ava did kind of have her moment at the end of season 1, but I think maybe she's the type of person that would take the wrong lessons from that. And maybe she could, after sort of, getting away with what she got away with by the end, but also knowing that her subordinates, if you will, like have her back, like maybe she will double down with what she thinks she can get away with moving forward. So yeah, I think okay. I think that's probably the direction that we want to move into. Because yeah, you don't want, I mean, it's only season 2, right? You want like right. 12 seasons. incremental movement on these characters.
No, that's good. And I guess, Leslie, you mentioned like earlier how it was maybe like the idea of maybe doing it from an animated perspective. When I watch a show, I'm consistently shocked that you have all these kids, obviously, in the classrooms. Like, so I'd imagine that's challenging, plus doing it during the pandemic, and not to belabor that, but I watch it. I'm like, how do they do this? How complicated is that from like a production aspect to have the kids, but not even have them be like, they're not like central hip, they're not, they're there, but they're not like, there, I guess. I just think it's like fascinating.
Well, the kids are all CG. I don't know if you knew that, but I mean, it's really a testament to, Randall Einhorn, who's our producing director, executive producer, who comes from The Office. He was the original DP of The Office, went on to direct countless episodes of The Office. And we also brought on people from The Office like Jen Salata, who directed a few episodes. She was a writer on, I think, pretty much every season of The Office. But anyways, Randall has kind of created an ecosystem in which we are really nimble and really, we are able to, I mean, our shoot days are, they're under 12 hours. Oftentimes they're about 10 hours or so. And that is partially a function of that we do have so many kids, right? And they have limited amounts of hours. I mean, forget the COVID protocol, right? If we were living in sort of an, pre-COVID world, it would still be a real, puzzle to kind of get everybody in and out. But, Randall and our first ADs are super adept at making sure that we move. We shoot everything with 3 cameras, other than, with the exception of the talking heads, which is just 1. But, we are constantly doing scenes with 3 cameras, with, everything's pretty much handheld or, seated, but still like on a stool with rollerblade wheels. I should know the name of this contraption. It's genius. But anyways, it's sort of nimbleness that allows us to knock out all of these scenes with like all of these kids. And then, like a COVID protocol, obviously, complicated things as well. But our COVID team did an outstanding job. We never once had any major instances. There was nothing in like zone A. We never shut down, knock on wood that continues. But I remember there was like an article that came out in Deadline about there being some like COVID positive tests. And I freaked because like that was the first I had heard of it. And I was like, well, I should be like one of the first people to know. And then it turned out that it was somebody it was a couple of people in like zone C who like never even, make it to the proximity of the zone A that would necessitate like a shutdown. So we got very lucky. I have a lot of friends, running other shows that were not so lucky, but that's just a testament to our COVID team and the crew and the cast for being extremely vigilant in that first season.
Well, it's a great show. Abbott Elementary, ABC. You can watch all the episodes on Hulu as well, I believe, and streaming as well. So thank you, Patrick, for doing this.
Thank you.